And as South Africa celebrates Youth Month, we focus the issues now on the impact of the future of the country. This morning, we look at the country's education system. Is our curriculum geared towards the future of work as the country, and I dare say the world, embrace the fourth industrial revolution and digital migration? To speak to us on this, we're joined by SADTU General Secretary Mugwena Maluleke, who talks to us from the province of Mpumalanga this morning. Mr. Maluleke, thank you very much for your time. If I were to pose that question to you and say, out of 10, how would you answer the question as to whether South Africa's schooling curriculum is geared towards the future of work as South Africa embraces the 4IR?
Let me greet your viewers at home and thank you for the opportunity, Babu Gabi. And clearly, out of 10, I would say that a 6 out of 10, the curriculum geared towards the future of work, precisely because of the skills that are generally applicable that the curriculum is supposed to be covering. And therefore, you can ask me what about the other 4? What's going to happen to that? Precisely because the curriculum that we are dealing with in the country is more academic instead of really being more vocational, occupational, but also being technical. Clearly, it is that the 6 comes from the fact that we are beginning to introduce the 3-stream model, which will then look at the academic stream and look at the occupational and vocational as well as the technical side. Some of the schools have begun to be looking into that particular area for a period of 3 years now in a pilot system. Yeah. So, yes, yeah.
That's quite a high score, Mr. Maluleke. 6 out of 10, and you base that on what you say is a South Africa that is more, it's more focused on students who are piled on with the literature as opposed to getting their hands dirty, vocational education, in other words. But some people will say, it's very ambitious of you to give the country's curriculum 6 out of 10 for a country, and I hate to sound like a stuck record, for a country whose children cannot read for understanding.
Well, I'm speaking as a teacher, and I'm speaking as an educationist, and who understand that education is just not about the job. Education is about building a holistic human being. Education is about really creating that human being who may be sensitive to other human beings' problems, and therefore it is not geared towards work only. It's about creating a human being who will play solidarity with the others, because South Africa needs to be saved from crime. South Africa needs to be saved from a moral decay. And for that for us to do that, we need that particular education that is looking at attitudes and behavior and creating that human being that will then be sensitive to other people's needs and so forth. So yes, a person who is looking at education as a creator of skills only will look at that. But as an educationist, I look at education as creating this human being who will then be able to live with others and then be able to create jobs for themselves and so forth. So, but you need generally applicable skills. They need communication skills. They need changing in terms of mindset and behavior. The problem of jobs in South Africa is not only because of education. Yes, education plays an important role around that particular issue. The economy in South Africa is such that it's shrinking, and therefore it is not able to provide our learners with jobs as they graduate from grade 12. It's shrinking on the basis that we have, inherited an economy that basically is about exporting our raw materials. And obviously, if we export raw materials, we are not going to be able to be manufacturing. We are not going to be looking at infrastructure and be able to create those particular skills that are needed. We need to change the whole situation of how our economy is set up in the country. And that particular approach needs both interaction between education and the economic development, people that are geared, in particular the government and business, to look into those particular issues. So yes, that's what I can say. It is that we're not going to get a straight answer that says, yes, we can be able to create every human being to be able to be given a job, when in actual fact, it is not the education that is responsible for creating unemployment, but it is the economic situation that creates unemployment.
Mr. Maluleke, I'd like for us to have quite a simple conversation in order for many of us to understand what we are trying to get out of this conversation. So your argument is that the South African world of work is shrinking. It's not that people do not have the skills, but you're dealing with a country that is putting people out of jobs because it's not expanding this economy, it's shrinking. Fine, I take that on board, but how do you answer a person who says, but if you were to use an example of a police officer who sits at a police station, sits there and takes statements from people who come to report crimes. Many a times we hear that those very reports that are written by police officers, they're not good, because people are unable to write a simple statement in order for a case to be taken to court, and what results is that a case is dropped because of shoddy police work. If you just use that basic example, it's not a very involved job. Simply taking a statement, that's language, right? If a police officer is unable to do the basics, why would you pat yourself on the back as a leader of SADTU, which is the biggest teaching union in the country, to say you produce quality, but the problem is the shrinking economy of South Africa? I argue different.
Of course, we have to have that particular argument and engagement around that. I have indicated that education must be able to produce a person who is sensitive to other people's problems. Let's use that as a feature and as a quality that we need and that we are lacking. So at the end of the day, it is not about the statement only. It is about the attitude, and I want to argue. It's about the attitude of the person who is receiving you at the police station and looking at you and not doing what they're supposed to be doing. In other words, the social pedagogy and then the societal education has failed, because attitudes are normally built from home. They're built by the society. So that particular person's attitude towards his or her job is questionable, and not a question of education per se. It's not that the person cannot do the work. Most of the time, it is that I must be able to come and say, look, they stole my cell phone, and therefore I'm here to write a statement because I want to claim from my insurance. It depends on the person who is sitting on the other side of the counter's attitude towards what I am reporting. And I'm saying this because most of the time when I go into those particular police stations, I normally write my statement. So let's say it is a person who cannot write, will then be asking the policeman to write that particular thing, and therefore then the message is lost, not just because the person cannot write. The person can write. It is the attitude towards our work. If South Africa, we can produce ourselves as a society, produce human beings in a simple way that are very sensitive, that place solidarity with each and every person, we will then be able to say that person is supposed to apply himself and herself 100% towards his job. So it's a mindset issue. How I take my job, and not the education system I come from. It's the society that has accepted a behavior and a mindset that says we are dependent on other people to do their job. Because the school, you go to a different police station, you find people who are really committed to do their work. They give you the best out of what they can do. And then you have cases that are being followed. People are then, cases are able to stand the test of time. But you have another police station where people literally have dependent on the fact that they don't want to do their job.
The Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, Mr. Maluleke, that's the bill that is at this stage of its life. It's out for public comment. People must give their views on this bill in order for South Africa to embrace perhaps a new set of rules when it comes to the schooling system in South Africa. That is out for public comment as we speak. What do you think is key about this bill? Because it is set to change the face of the country's education system. What is it that is key or stands out for you as the biggest union?
Thank you for that question. I think very important is that the first thing that we see extending out there is the issue of language. Is the issue of us being able to reverse what we see as a trend of using the language by the school governing body to bar some of our children from attending schools in areas where they are living in on the basis that they cannot speak a particular language. And that to me stands out as one of the critical features of this particular bill, to then say the government of the day, and in particular the MEC and the head of department, have to play a role in that particular situation where we integrate our schools, we democratize our schools, and not allow a situation where we have got a reverse of people being discriminated on the basis of the language that they speak and so forth. That to me stands out as one of the things that we need to be able to support the bill on that particular score.
Yeah, okay. So for you, it is access. And so some of the people have said it's access, and you add equality to that. Now, where I'm going with this is that in the country at the moment, you have the public schooling system and the private schooling system. The argument has always been that those who come through the hands of the private schooling system are better off than those who come from the public schooling system. So, if the efforts of this new bill is about access and equality, then it means that for the longest time, the children who have gone through the public schooling system, I'm not sure about the quality of educational outcomes they have received. How would you respond to that?
Well, we need to be able to compare apples with apples, because if you compare a rich private school that has got 20 learners in the classroom and another school in Soweto or in Umlazi that has got about 60 children in the classroom, and that particular school is able, again, out of the number of learners that they have there, it's able to give you A's in mathematics and A's in physical science. You must ask yourself, how did they achieve it as a public school as compared to a school that has the same quality of outcomes in a private school that has got 20 learners in the classroom? They have got a swimming pool, the size of which is an Olympic size kind of a swimming pool. They have got all the infrastructure, and this other school does not have the infrastructure. It is human beings who work so hard during weekends, during afternoon, during school holidays to make sure that they produce the same. So anyone who argue about the quality of a public school, comparing it with a private school where there are 18 children in the classroom, basically you are comparing stones and a bread, because I can tell you that majority of the students that are out there are not coming from private schools. They are coming from public schools, and they are doing their best. They are competing with the best in our country that comes from the private school. So I'm not going to be defensive on this particular matter, but it's important that all the time we look at what the public schooling is able to produce as compared to what, because they're writing the same curriculum, and therefore the number of students that come out of private schools, very insignificant as you look at it as compared to what we are able to produce. So it's something, let's say it's something that is relative when we say the quality of a private school is this. I know of a fly-by-night private schools that basically are the ones that have always been cheating when we write examination. And of course, there are public schools that are cheating themselves. So we need to be careful when we compare a private school and a public school. The quality of the public school, we have got people who are working very hard. I mean, I feel for the grade 12 teachers. They don't have families. They don't have weekends. They work so hard. And I don't know how we can incentivize them to do more except to say, thank you, you are doing the best for our country.
And SADTU, as a final question to you, Where do you stand on this homeschooling debate? Because some parents, particularly the ones who want for their children to be educated from a home environment, are saying, you're taking away my rights as a parent to choose what I want to do for my child.
Well, South Africa is a constitutional democracy, and we respect the rights of everyone. I would also not support a situation where a parent cannot choose where they want to educate their children. Homeschooling is allowed in terms of the law, and they can apply to have their children being educated at home and so forth. So it makes no difference at all. If you have got good quality teachers at home that can teach your children, they can do so. Except that, education society is the huge school, because it's where we impart a culture, is where we impart, values of the society, and then we have got this socialization of our students when they are together in public or private schools and so forth. So there's something that a learner in a homeschooling may lack, but that does not take away the right of a parent. We as SADTU would not support a situation where that particular right is taken away. Every parent has a right to educate their children wherever they choose to. And that is a fundamental right for our parents. So homeschooling or any other type of schooling for us is acceptable. As long as at the end of the day you can afford it, you have a right to do that.
SADTU General Secretary Mugwena Maluleke, thank you very much for your time.